Hey, we're talking about why you can't find your authentic self as an artist. I'm Alark. I'm the founder of Supreme Sound Life, which is a platform for artists to find their true voice, signature sound, and build a music career that they love. Now, if you're finding that you can't find your way, that you're torn between genres, that you can't pinpoint what is going to help you build momentum and traction. They have so many things to do, yes. And then also, how do you brand yourself as an artist? What do you want to lead with in your messaging, and in your music? So this is your lyrics, your visuals, the types of music that you're putting out, what social channels you're on, how you're spending your time, all of this. And if you feel that you're dabbling in a bunch, which is important because it's really necessary to try different things to see what works. So it's like a science experiment, throwing things at the wall and seeing what works. But then once we have our feedback, to build from there. So if you feel like you've been throwing things at the wall and now you're ready to finally find what is going to help carry you into the area that's going to build traction, there are a bunch of things to consider. So first, let's take stock of what's going on. The first thing to do in making any sort of change is to have awareness. What are your actions? What is your current state of affairs and reality? And look at this from an objective point of view. What's going on with your music? What's happening in your art? What are the projects happening? And then also look at other areas of your life. What's happening in your career, your personal life, your spiritual life? What's happening with your health? Physical and mental health, what's happening in your emotional well-being, relationships with friends, with partners. Take a good stock across all areas of your life. Get an objective look at what's happening. Then it's important to look at where you want to go. If you could wave a magic wand and anything were possible, what would that be? If there were no holds, time and money weren't an issue, what would that be? Then in finding your authentic self, we also have to look at what things need to happen for you to get from point A to point B. But why you can't start to identify those and why you're living in the confusion, and I can empathize so much. It's because there's so much fear. And then there can be denial, there can be fear. We know that there's an impending change on the horizon. So it's almost like a horse is running in a field and is about to jump a fence, and then they break before the fence and they don't jump because whatever reason, they're scared. And so we put on the brakes before you make any change. And this can manifest in many ways. Common things are numbing out. So numbing through Netflix, binging, social media, partying, obsessive. Social media is one example of that, or just like staying looped in certain thoughts and not stopping to question if those thoughts are really what you want to be thinking. Our brain is rethinking thoughts from yesterday. Like a majority of those thoughts, like I don't know what the study is, like 95% of the thoughts are repeated on autopilot. So it takes a lot of conscious work and intention to really analyze what's going on. This is part of the awareness. What are these thoughts that are happening? Now, if you won't let yourself get clear, that is a decision in itself. Being unclear and not making a decision is a decision. And that's okay, because sometimes it's important to let ourselves be where we are. If we're not ready to make a complete paradigm shift, it's akin to jumping out of a plane without a parachute on, right? So sometimes people say, well, write out the affirmation, I'm of what you want to be. So for example, like I'm a successful artist doing XYZ, touring the world, performing shows, releasing my music, getting all of these plays on Spotify, YouTube, and all these people coming to my shows, etc. But if you don't feel like you're worthy of this and finding your authentic self, because in order to bring in these audiences and have this relationship with people, people can detect if something is real or if it's contrived and fake. So if if it feels contrived and fake to you, like you're not sure fully what you're doing, or even a little bit, people can feel it and it's going to hold you back, right? So those affirmations might not even work. So what you might even think is stepping back and say, I'm not ready to accept that I am not unworthy of finding your authentic self. And here's the irony of this. Writing out that statement is true. And it's also tricking the brain into accepting where we are. And so you're accepting that is self-acceptance. Finding your authentic self is self-acceptance. And so by writing that, you're already making progress in that direction. I learned that from a mentor named Jerry Wise, and I feel like it's very powerful. And you can say it over and over again. Write sticky notes and post that around. There's also a fear of the paradigm shift. There's fear of the unknown, and that's natural and that's human. So we have compassion for ourselves, but we can recognize that there's comfort in the familiarity, even if we don't want it. There's comfort there. We know what to expect. What does it mean for you to do something that pleases people in your family or certain friends or people in your friend circle or your relationships? Maybe it's related to what you want to do, and so you might keep one foot in what they are expecting of you and put one foot in of what you want to do, but you can't fully gain traction because you're torn between the two sides, right? You have to let go of being held to what other people want so that you can put all of your energy and go in the direction that you want to go in. Now, holding on to these feelings, that's people pleasing, it's codependence, and it's trying to gain worth and value from external sources. We always have to look at gaining that from within. So in this paradigm shift, it's fear of what would my identity be without their approval? What would my identity be if I actually let myself go and do what I want to do? The unknown in what's ahead, what we can do to get there is look at different support systems that we have available. Because no, we can't just expect ourselves to jump into the unknown and figure it jump and figure it out and it'll all come through. You can take things step by step. And the first thing that I would suggest is get a support system where people really see you, who you are, where you feel safe. So it's a safe space, and it could be a group, it could be one-on-one, it could be both. And when you have this, when you start to feel seen by others and allowed to express yourself for who you are, then you start to allow it within yourself afterwards. At least this is my experience. Of course, there are many other experiences that people go through, but I know this is common. When you learn to see yourself, start learning to be there for yourself. And so be there for yourself, meaning having compassion, treating yourself with gentleness, treating yourself, celebrating yourself. We need all of these things in our authentic selves, and we have to be our number one. And it's like exercise. It grows stronger the more that we do it. So in moving through this unknown into the unknown, we can take things one step at a time. And it's just like a letting go slowly, little pieces here and there. It doesn't have to be everything at once. That's too much. And we don't need to do that to ourselves. We also have to recognize that we're going to face a lot of new emotions, like grief, maybe grief of things that you wanted that couldn't have, or different parts of fear, different negative emotion. Maybe there's definitely a lot of fear. Because what does it mean with fear of success or fear of failure? How is your life going to look? Who are the people that are going to be in it? Some of the relationships, sometimes people will be supportive, and maybe they'll be supportive as you're starting out, but then when you start to make more significant changes, they might question you or even say things to bring you down. This happens, and also knowing that it happens I know it happens in the entrepreneurial world all the time. But knowing that it happens to other people, it helps you feel not alone so much as well. And having those safe places to process those negative emotions that can be difficult to deal with lets you know, okay, I've got my own back. I know that I can take these steps forward because where I currently am with staying stuck is not serving me. And it's a decision. Do I want to stay stuck where I am now, or do I want to move somewhere at least that's one step ahead of where I am now? You can move one step ahead, and then from there on, one more step ahead. I think another really important thing in looking at why you can't find your true authentic self is that we can look at what do we perceive truth to be, truth of life. When we're very much wrapped up in the here and the now and the relationships that we have in our life and what we think of ourselves, we miss out on the big picture, and the big picture where the truth is sets us free. So what is the ultimate truth of life? I mean, who can answer this really, right? I think it's love, learning to love, at least for me. And learning to love is loving myself, loving what I want to do out in the world, and being myself, loving myself as I'm being the authentic self. And if this is the ultimate truth, what's holding oneself back is fear. But then when we realize that, there's that Eleanor Roosevelt quote, there's nothing to fear but fear itself. Holding yourself back doesn't do you any good, doesn't do anyone good. And then also, there's this great quote from A Course in Miracles that says, let me learn to give the past away, realizing that in doing so, I'm giving away nothing. And everything, ultimately, we know that our physical reality is not the only reality. Science tells us this. So this can kind of be an illusion of sorts. And so we're wrapped up and connected and holding on to this illusion. Of course, we're not going to be able to step into our authentic selves and make these changes and be the star within. So things like meditation are very helpful. Contemplating the true reality of life. So what are you truly meant here to do? What is the best example that you can serve for other people? Sometimes stepping outside of yourself and looking at what the best example is for other people can help you do the things. Like, for example, I have a bunch of friends that work in marketing, and they'll market other people's projects. Great, it's their job. But then when they go to market their own artistic projects, they say, oh my God, I'm so bad at my own stuff. It's because it's so much easier to do it for somebody else, right? And so when we look at, if we step outside of ourselves and step back and say, what would it mean for oneself, me, to do all of these things I don't do? Oh, actually, that's much more aligned with the truth than the fear that they're stuck in. So stepping outside of yourself can be extremely powerful. I'd love to know what is most meaningful for you. Drop a comment, let me know. And if you're an artist and you're really seeking to find your true voice and authentic sound, and you feel like you're trying different avenues and nothing is really gaining traction, I'm here to help you. This is a great passion of mine, and I love helping artists just like you unearth that confidence factor inside and shine in your brilliance. So you can go to supremesound.life and book a call with me, and we can talk about where you are now, where you're going, and the steps to help you get to where you want to go. So you can get out unstuck and find your authentic self, find your true voice, your signature sound, and build the music career and the life that you love. Cheers.